On this episode of Nerdy Romantics Podcast, we continue our discussion of Bridgerton Season 4. We talk about Lady Danbury and Queen Charlotte, the ultimate female friendship, and some of the other female friendships that we see on this season. We dissect a romantic moment between Sophie and Benedict and wonder, was that for them or was that for us, gentle viewers? And we wrap it all up with a star rating, among other things we discuss. There will be spoilers, so spoiler alert. If you've watched season 4 of Bridgerton, come on back and discuss with us. This is the Nerdy Romantics Podcast, and I'm your host, Y.M. Nelson.
But I really like some of the side stories more so than the main. Not saying the main one wasn't okay, but I knew what the main was going to do. It's Cinderella story. I knew it was going to happen. I didn't have to look over it and watch it. I can watch these other ones, and that's something different.
Do you think that people who have not seen Queen Charlotte would have? Because I think the thing that resonated, and the reason I like the Queen Charlotte stuff the most, is because even though it was a romantic love, their love felt more real to me than some of the other characters. Like, I feel them. Like, I could tell they love each other, and she doesn't want to leave her friend. And I like, even though Queen Charlotte gets on every nerve I have because I know her backstory, I feel differently towards her. And I don't know if you haven't seen that. I wonder how people who don't know that, who haven't seen that, how they would have felt about this same.
Yeah, Dana, when in the scene where Lady Danbury looks at Queen Charlotte is crying, at first I thought that the king had died. It wasn't until they held that gaze for a minute and she nodded that I realized that she was letting her go. But in that moment, you're right. Unless you understand the bond between them, that some of those gestures, you might not understand why they know from those gestures, why they know what the other one is thinking or doing. You won't understand why they're just holding hands and laughing. Like some of those kiki moments, which brings me to another point I'll circle back to, but those moments, you're right. You may not have the context for them because the season doesn't give them to you. And I don't know if you only seen Bridgerton 1, 2, and 3, you even have enough of the context. You really need that grounding that comes from there. But that does lead me to a thought that just popped up in my head, which is I really feel like they did a lot in episode 8 that rushed a lot of stuff to conclusion and didn't give us the time to see those things evolve in a bigger way. I mean, there were hints of it, but Mrs. Mondrick and all of that just kind of happens at a rush at the end. And you're right, we don't get to see how she was navigating in between. We don't even get to see how she came up with that idea. Literally, one minute she's rushing out the house, and the next minute she's like, "You gonna do this?" And there's no real moment where you figure out how she got there. Like, because before then she's been very tentative, and there wasn't really a moment where you see her like come to the revelation on her own of what she's got to do. Like, I feel like there's some scenes on the cutting room floor that we didn't get to see. Now, does that mean? I hope that means that there's another inset somewhere where there is the story of Lady Danbury and Mrs. Mondrick, and today, like in that in between space, on how they got there while she was teaching her how to be who she needed to be for the queen. Because otherwise, I do think they left. I'm hopeful, like y'all, that maybe it's just because these are strands we're supposed to pick up and hold on to for the next season. Like maybe that's what we're supposed to. But I do feel like you have a good question, Dana, and that maybe is something that as a podcast I would recommend is if you haven't seen Queen Charlotte and you're confused by what you see in this season, then while you're waiting for the next season, maybe you go back and pick that up because it does add a lot of context on what to do. I think it was a beautiful moment when Lady Danbury says, "I'll stay," right? Because she realizes it's about to be too much for the queen. And in the moment where Queen sets herself aside and says no, like I like you don't understand the like it seems big, but you don't understand the true gravity of that and the true selflessness of that unless you know where they're coming from. Because I do think you're right, Dana, that I mean that's big for the queen.
Oh, absolutely.
Because she doesn't have anything else to ground her to who where she can be her authentic self, because everybody else has a different expectation of who she has to be to them: mother, ruler, boss. But there wasn't another person that can be just a human to human interaction.
I wanted her, and I know she couldn't do this, but because I wanted Lady Danbury to be able to go to her ancestral home. But at the same time, I was like, well, can't the queen come with you? Because I felt bad for her. I didn't want her to be my, and I know she can't. But I was just like, I want them both to have what it is they need, whatever. So I think it's very easy to see the queen very one-sided. And my first thing would have been like, Lady Danbury, get them, leave. You want to leave, just leave, whatever. But if you don't know their history and don't know all of that, I think unfortunately you won't really understand the depth of the love they have for each other and how much they need each other. And so, I don't know. I thought like all y'all did, it was beautiful, obviously, because we've seen the Queen Charlotte and I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. Jen, what about you? What did you think of? Actually, were you on our Queen Charlotte podcast? Did you see Queen Charlotte?
Absolutely. Loved it.
So, what did you think about these relationships that really just kind of blossomed on Queen Charlotte? Like we really saw them on Queen Charlotte and kind of come here. What did you think about like the Lady Danbury Queen Charlotte evolution here and the Violet and Marcus thing, their romance? What did you think?
You know what? The way that female friendships are portrayed in this season, I mean, Shonda Rhimes has always done a lot with female friendships and really puts them front and center. But there were the Lady Danbury Queen Charlotte friendship that started in the Queen Charlotte show, but has kind of run consistently through the Bridgerton seasons as well. The way that she has, it goes beyond being someone who she can, confide in and become someone who's truly a friend. And that is a beautiful thing to watch because they both need it. They're both Queen Charlotte is someone who, as the queen, like you were saying, she can't leave. She can't like go with Lady Danbury on a trip. So she's kind of stuck in London, right? She is more or less trapped in London and only can go to a couple of homes sometimes, where Lady Danbury is at a place where she's ready to leave and have freedom and travel and do all those things. And there's this element where you do feel like Queen Charlotte wants to be happy for her friend, like as she would have been as a young child, but she is still and will forever be trapped in the castle. And you see that on their faces. You see that in the way that they talk to each other. You see it in every word that they say. And it's so beautifully done. It's just beautifully done. So that to me was incredible and really special. I think there's other great things about female friendships in here. We haven't really talked about like the Eloise and Hyacinth, thing that was going on where the sisters that are sort of at each other's, don't understand each other. And but Hyacinth, when she calls Eloise out and says, okay, well, I guess you're just not interested in me. You're only interested in you. And how Eloise like felt that, right? How she realized what she's been doing and what she's been putting Hyacinth through. And then you see, I mean, even like the kind of fun part of Penelope and Francesca, sitting there and trying to have a conversation about the pinnacle. And
yes,
but also even outside of that conversation before that, going on a couple's date, right? Let's go have ice cream together. And there's something very sweet about this idea of having couples friends, right? And being with other people who are happy in their marriage. And then, to a different extent, Violet and her housekeeper. And because obviously that's somebody that she has depended on and always depends on to like run the household. And how she was there to protect Violet, and Violet could like tell her things. And then the Sophie and Hazel one, right? How Sophie and Hazel were friends below stairs, and how they sort of moved through the world together. And then the Sophie and Posey, right? Posey's sort of like in the background, but she sees what happens to Sophie and knows that it's wrong, but she doesn't have the power to change it. So all of these different women that see each other, they understand each other, they recognize the limitations that they have given who they are and where they come from and what's allowed of them. And we get to just sort of sit in that and feel that friendship alongside them. And that's the strength of this season, really, is the female friendship.
The one that shocked me and the one I wish that we had gotten to see more of was when Eloise had to play.
Because I was thinking about that one.
No, when she went to see Cressida. And when she was sitting there in the drawing room, and then Cressida says, "I know why you really came, and you want to know." And then Cressida says something about an Arthur or something. She says, "I know it's not really your thing." In that moment, Eloise was like, "You read her?" And she was like, "Yeah,
yep.
You talked about her all the time." And you realize, I think two things. One, that Cressida really was trying to be a friend to Eloise, and she just didn't know how to. She didn't recognize it, but also that them getting past that is interesting, because it's not what Eloise has been able to. Hopefully it'll help Eloise be able to do that in full with Penelope, knowing now that someone has forgiven her in the same way for who she was to them, but also to see them grow into that moment and to see what time and experience has done for both of them. But I wanted to hear what she had to say. And I wanted to hear what Cressida's experience had been. Because she was like, yeah, because love makes a difference. And I was like, love? She looked miserable in the back of that car. Like, when did love happen? Because you remember when she drove off, it didn't look like that's how life was going to be for her. So I'm very interested to see. And that's a place where we had spent a little bit more time.
Expecting to, and I don't know.
I'm
obviously,
hoping.
none of it's
I'm thinking we're going to see
living in
more
that house.
of her.
I'm expecting
because that but that really touched, like that was one of the things I really enjoyed, was seeing their growth and seeing their perspective change and seeing them recognize each other as the women they become and not the girls they were when they last interacted with each other, and recognizing that they could still have a friendship in this new phase. That was, to me, was a great scene.
Stacey,
well, I was gonna say, like, Cressida, because I did start to feel for Cressida at the end of season 3, because you just saw her as being just a little bitchy toward everyone, but then you realize she has been on the marriage market for a while, and when you saw her home life, you're like, yeah, she probably wants to get out, and you kind of start to feel for her a little bit, to me, at the end of it. But the fact that her growth, we did see. I mean, we didn't see as much as we probably would want to see with her, that she did change somewhat. But I also want to say about Lady Featherington and how she did, the maid that her, was it head housekeeper? Because she was not just a maid, just a head housekeeper, doing all this stuff. I've been doing all this stuff in the background. You've given me little to no money, and I've made miracles happen. And you're gonna give me some of your old gowns. Right. That's all you're gonna give me. Right. I've been why am I wearing these gowns, I know ladies? You've been doing dirt. Right, exactly. I mean, she really does know all the dirty stuff that Lady Featherington has. And instead of giving this lady a raise, I'm gonna give you my tacky old dresses and be like, here. And I see why she left, but at the same time, I would have liked it better if Lady Featherington went after her versus her kind of coming back because of that kind of a thing. But right. I mean, I saw the whole maid, was it what they call the maid wars or whatever they were talking about?
Right. Yes.
But I mean, I did like how we saw friendships and how that was a sort of friendship in a way, but how she didn't appreciate her at all. Of all the things she did for how many years she was doing that for that family. Exactly. And then at the end, they kind of made up because she got fired from another job. And it's like, well, you already got this other person. Oh, she'll be fine. We'll find a place for you because in essence, she was her friend in a sense, a servant.
But that concerned me, Stacey, because if you can have me and that other woman that you don't need, why can't you get rid of her and pay me? Exactly.
I mean, we know she knows what money she was making, and she now knows what Penelope was doing. Give me a raise.
Exactly.
Just for the fact I know what happened with your husband. And,
right.
And the cousin that came. That
right.
Was and I forgot about that. And I
thought that was funny.
Bothered me, but at the same time, I mean, I like to see them sparring a little bit to each other because that was, I don't know, I want to say that they're not frenemies, but their relationship is different. Their relationship to me is different from like Lady Bridgerton and her, maid. Like, I'm trying to get them out so you can, everyone has tea. While the other one is like, we're scheming together, and they're
right.
Like a tramp, they just kind of do their stuff together and get it done.
I thought we got to see more of, for lack of better words, the help this season.
Yes,
and I actually enjoyed them. So that was something I thought was different. And because, they got their own stuff going on. And, I don't know. I really enjoy even some of the guys and the different things that we saw. I'm wondering what the future will look like in terms of that. But I thought it was different. And I thought that was interesting.
Well, to me, it reminded me, I know you said upstairs, downstairs, but I never really saw that. But Gilded Age, or no, you said down now, but Gilded Age, I guess because I've seen that more recently. And how they just showed how the upper class and the servants, the whole life of the servants there. That this season kind of reminded me more of the Gilded Age in that sense.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that it did concentrate more on the servants and the servant class. And, how it's a big difference, like from season 1, when Eloise was trying to find out who Lady Whistledown is, and she was saying, it must be a servant. And the servant's like, do you see what I have to do in the course of the day?
Right.
I can't be it. Lady,
and how they do some lighting. Milk on the stove and all that stuff is like, oh yeah, we come a long way.
And now we actually see what the servants are doing.
Yeah.
And someone can write it now.
And I'm like, gosh, that would have, well, no, I wouldn't even factored in at this point, but geez, that's a lot of work that they're doing. And the thing that really got to me, all the bells in the Bridgerton house.
Oh, yeah.
So that really lets you know how rich that was the other thing, is that the number of servants and how the servants were dressed and all of that kind of stuff really let you know how rich people were.
I didn't know they had specific. And maybe I just didn't miss it. I didn't realize how they had specific uniforms for their houses.
I didn't either until this season. I didn't either until
Sophie came out with that pink, like, it reminded me a little bit of The Handmaid's Tale, but it's fine. But the pink version. And I remember thinking, I don't remember ever seeing it that specifically before. I mean, I know that, like, for footmen there's a livery, but I don't remember seeing theirs before I saw her in that uniform. And but it was nice to see different characters and see how they, especially when they started switching houses, and you could, but like when she went in there, she was like, is that an automatic spit turner? Like, she was like, I've been working in the slums.
And it's funny how they say that automatic, but it was actually somebody turning it.
Right.
Automatic.
I was
like, that was funny.
That is hilarious. But you could tell she was like, man, I've been gypped. Yep.
Yeah. That was wow. Really what got me was all those bells. I was like, geez Louise, how do you even keep all that in your head?
I thought it was nice. I was like, oh, I can ring and they'll just come and bring.
But and see, so you're looking at it from that side, and I'm looking at it from Well, I've been admin support for most of my life, so I would probably be in this bell ringing.
Oh, girl, please.
Somebody would be ringing a bell for me.
Yeah,
somewhere.
I wouldn't be ringing no bell. Let's keep it real. I sure wouldn't be out there ringing that.
That icebreaker question.
Yeah, right. Icebreaker question. Inside joke, y'all. But yes, I liked how I'm gonna piggyback on what Jim was saying about the female friendships, and I liked how all of the different female friendships, they weren't just like these people, this is how they feel about each other. They were evolving. All of them that we have seen, at least from the other seasons, have kind of evolved. And then we had even more quote unquote friendships by now seeing the upstairs downstairs relationship, seeing the servants and stuff more. We realize that they're actually friendships here. It's just that they can't call them friendships because they are employed by these people, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not exactly friendships. They're just different kinds of relationships there. And another reason why I kept watching, and I think too that this is also why I guess I like the fact that this was, as much as I didn't like the whole Cinderella retelling thing, I like the fact that this opened the door where we then could see the servants and how the servants were acting, and we could have the whole maid wars thing go on, and we could see how that relationship happened. So basically what Sophie and Benedict did was open the door to some other fun stuff, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So yeah. So anybody have anything else to say about that? Say it again.
So one of the things that people didn't like about Penelope season is it seemed to care more about all the other people around them, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like they did the same thing with this one, except I feel like it was better done. Like I was okay with it.
I was totally okay with it, and I'm totally with. That's exactly what I was going to say a little while ago when we were talking about Sophie and Benedict, is that they did kind of the same thing in season 3. And we didn't like it, but here we liked it. But that's because the main relationship, we were rooting for Penelope.
We were.
I'm not going to say Colin because I was not rooting for Colin for anything, but we were rooting for Penelope to find happiness. We saw her as the underdog. We knew at that point, she was Lady Whistledown, but we saw her as the underdog, and we really wanted her to find happiness. And 2, I guess I'm going to speak for myself, but I know you may agree as well, ladies, but seeing her as a normal sized woman or as a bigger woman in this, to have her find happiness, I was really rooting for that. Right.
Absolutely.
And
she was representing a little bit of me.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. She was representing a little bit of me. And so that's why I wanted to see their relationship play out. I didn't want to see everybody else. But here, because Benedict has been with everybody else, maybe I don't really care about Benedict being with everybody else. I like seeing all the other stuff happening, right? Because I'm not as invested in Benedict finding somebody as I was in Penelope finding somebody. Because Benedict already found a bunch of people. He could just pick one. I mean, no, I shouldn't say that. That's mean.
So do we think it's because of Benedict's prior activities that this season seemed a little bit racier than the others? Do we think that by default Sophie also had to be racier because he already was racy and we'd already seen his butt cheeks a couple of times and a couple of people in the bed? Because I do feel like racy. They were. I mean, I think
their chemistry was better than Colin and Penelope.
They definitely had more screen time in the bed and in that bathtub than we ever saw of any other couple, even the girl that, even when old girl,
they may have had more, but I didn't feel like we're on the steaminess to me. But I don't see the same steaminess as at least the first 2 to me. I mean, I didn't see it.
I had felt 1, 2, and 4 were steamy. All of them felt steamy to me. And I realized, and this is probably just me not thinking it through, that a lot of the steaminess I was associating with was that they were trying to do things not to get pregnant. And so I don't think I realized because I'm like, why are we always doing this? And so now I think I realize why we're always doing it. Because to me, that just seems a little racier, I guess, than just, straight up normal, whatever. So I'm always like, why is it always start off this way? My mama's going to watch this, y'all. I got
Right, you gotta right.
My mom will not watch this, and I'm still careful because I don't want one of y'all's moms to go and try to find my mom and say
my mother is demure, but more than anything, I not race, but I think there was a lot more screen time for this couple with no clothes on or little clothes than
definitely
in
compared
some of the
to 3. For sure.
Right, especially compared to 3.
Yeah.
But and so I'm wondering if that's just because he was already known for multiple partners and butt cheeks and all kinds of stuff that it seemed
I
like
wondered
it was more
if it was because the female was not a main character in terms of because I'm less likely, if I've been with you all season, to be the naked girl. I'm just less likely to be that person. Because I was kind of shocked at the amount of nudity that she was willing to do. We always say men.
Okay.
But so I wonder if it was because she wasn't one of the bigger long-term people as to why. So that was kind of my initial thought, because I did think, wow, this is a lot compared to Penelope. And it could be just an actress thing. I mean,
Yeah.
The man wanted to do more than, or being open to do more than the other one. So, but I did think about that too. So it was definitely different. And what I don't want to believe is that it had anything to do with other than Penelope saying, hey, this is what I will do. No, I don't want it to have been a decision made, because we talk about stuff like this when you have a larger size and not plus size, because she ain't, but a larger size, we want them to be treated equally, the same way that you would treat somebody else. And so I don't want it to be that they were like, oh, well, we don't want to show too much skin, which they did, but it wasn't the same. But in my mind, I just said, she's more of a regular cast member, and I think we're gonna not be as so. I mean, I don't know.
I see what you're saying, and I see that you're trying to be tasteful with it. And I'm just gonna say it out loud. Listen, okay, so they didn't want to show the big girl, right? They didn't want to show the curves of the big girl. I'm like, are you kidding me with this right now? No, I don't think that was what it was. Actually, let me address what you're saying. I think that the actress who plays Penelope, just like everybody, I feel like in this show, and maybe even everybody in a Shonda type show, they have their like contractual, this is what I want to show and this is what I don't want to show. And I think that Shonda honors that.
Right.
And like what you're saying, even though you're saying in a very tasteful way, the actress who plays Penelope probably said, I really don't want to show XYZ of my body, right? I really don't want to show this. Or I want to show this, but not this. I want to show this in a certain way. And I think that the production team, I shouldn't just say Shonda, even though we know it's a Shonda Land show. The production team honors whatever the actor says. And to add on and to kind of say whatever you were saying is that she is a regular on the show. So what she says that she wants to do probably gets more of a yes, we will accommodate than somebody who has not been a regular on the show like Sophie. Like, we're just meeting Sophie. She's not a regular yet.
Because they could have got another Sophie, right? If Sophie wasn't willing to do whatever it is,
exactly,
not established with us, we wouldn't have known she even existed.
Right.
So they could have got somebody else.
So they could have, right, exactly. But so, yes, to that point that you make, I wasn't necessarily thinking about that point when I was thinking about it. I actually was thinking that I wonder if they were trying to get some of the sexiness talk back that they got in season 1. Remember how we all, well, maybe y'all weren't on social media as much as I was, because I know I tend to do that for the biz, but remember how people talked about just the whole scene where the Duke of Hastings was eating ice cream? Okay. So, and remember how we talked about this. How
should have been fat because he did a lot of eating.
Stop. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have such a time editing this. Anyway, I'm not going to edit that out. Anyway, and 2, and obviously there was also the scene that everybody talked about, which actually was a sex scene, right? It was a love scene. That was like the scene everybody talked about. And that was part of the reason why some people started watching, because they were like, what in the world is Bridgerton? But then everybody was like, oh my gosh, episode 5 or whatever episode that was. I don't know what episode it was now. But part of the draw were the love scenes of that and the innuendo. And so I feel like maybe they did that here, maybe because they could contractually with this actress who played Sophie, and 2, because they wanted to bring back some of that season 1 innuendo and sexiness back so that people would be talking about it. Did it happen? I don't think so. Well, I didn't see
I
it.
haven't heard it
On the socials. But I will say that that's not necessarily one of the things that we didn't like. Like for instance, in season 2, people were like, oh my gosh, they didn't get together until the very end. And that felt like it was tacked on just so we could see nudity or something. And then, of course, we have this in season 3, which we just talked about. So I think with this season, they tried to get back some of the sexiness from season 1 and some of that. Now, did it land? Don't necessarily think that it landed in that way. But I thought, yes, that's what I was going to say. I thought their chemistry was good. I wasn't like I was in season 2 looking for them to what's going to happen with them? When are they going to get together? Because the other thing about this is that during that whole week when we thought that he was going to figure it out, nothing really happened during that week, really, with them. And so it's like, but you're in a house together.
I know you're bleeding out and dying, but man, look, it's just the 2 of us.
But he gets better though. Remember, they're in there, but he gets better.
I know he's getting better, but
but this is the other thing. Going back to season 1, remember how Daphne and the Duke were standing there and they were like struggling to not hold each other's hand? I didn't even feel that in that whole week. You know what I'm saying? I didn't really feel that. I only really felt like they both love each other after their love scene.
Yes, like I said, right? when they were in it is only time I felt anything. Outside of it was just
yeah. Like you didn't see them like struggle passing each other's doors or anything. Right. Like it wasn't. Yeah.
So I think they really took those scenes. We needed the racy to really convey what we
especially with her wishy-washiness.
The chemistry.
Yeah, especially with her going back and forth. I can't. Yeah, we needed that.
Was just angst.
She really did.
That was just angsty, right? The back and forth and the I love you, but I can't be in. I'm a maid, and that's just angsty, right? That's not the tension of the, I want to be together. That's just angsty. The only time I really felt that chemistry and that tension was when they were actually together. So I think that's part of the reason. And like I said, I think they wanted to get some of the whatever back. Stacey didn't really answer what you said, Marcy. Or did you? Or did you want to even say anything about this?
I think she said she didn't really see it was that racy.
Yeah, she didn't really think it was that racy. Yeah, that's right.
There was one. I was just gonna say real quick. I wanted to slip this in because I found this very enduring. When Benedict is talking to Sophie and they're in the conservatory or whatever they are, and they sit on the floor, and at one point he says to her that he's gonna love her, and it won't be what she deserves. And I don't know. That just struck me. It was so real. He was like, I'm going to give you my all, and it still won't be what you deserve. But I'm going to do the best that I can. I don't know. I really thought that line, maybe not particularly for them because, whatever, but I just love that line for whatever reason. I was like, oh, somebody said, look, I know you deserve better than me, but I will try everything to my dying day to be what you need. And it won't be enough. You know what?
I want somebody to feel that deeply about me. That they recognize.
I don't know. That just got me. And I was just like, oh, wow. I mean, because it shows me that he recognizes, that he knows, and he's being honest with her, but he wants her and he loves her anyway. So. Oh, and then I had to just say this other thing. I'm just saying it because I'm just keeping it real. Again, I find the conversation interesting because especially because I guess we found out, and I didn't realize this until later that, and again, y'all forgive me, maybe I should know. So she's a virgin, so she's not used to all of this kind of stuff or whatever. Is my understanding from what I saw. So when he's like telling her for the first time, yes, I've also been with men, it's almost like there was no batting. I mean, it was like a half-second batting of the eye, nothing. And I just thought,
oh.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if that's realistic.
Right.
At very least, I have questions.
Yeah, I would think there would be something going on to ask something like.
Okay.
I mean, even in this day and age, I'd be like, "What?"
Exactly. There would be some
when it is happening.
At the very least,
but this time,
especially considering that she doesn't feel like he would stick around.
I mean, you know what people say. Now I got even double competition, right? So, I mean, something.
Something. There. I mean, two pause or let me think about it. Oh no, I might not be ready for this. Nothing. Nope.
And because he goes out of his way to make sure she understands it's both men and women. If he had just been like, I've been around, then fine, she ain't got to say nothing. But he goes out of his way to make sure she knows it, and she doesn't even bat an eye.
I was thinking that he didn't really say that for her necessarily. He said that for us. Because remember when in season 3, when he got with she wasn't a dowager. But
a widow.
Yeah. When he got with the older lady,
she was a widow. Yep.
Yeah, she was a widow. Okay, I wasn't sure if she
was free to be out and about like that. It's because she was.
Benedict got with the widow. I remember on the podcast we were saying, well, we thought that he was gay. And when he got with her, somebody said that, or we thought that he was with men. And when
he was mostly
he was exactly,
exactly,
he was, especially at the salon in season 2 and in season 1, we thought that he was gay. And so when he got with the widow, it kind of threw us for a loop. And then too, the fact that he is with Sophie now and is just so in love with this woman, I think really what he was trying to, with that line, was he wasn't trying to tell her, he was trying to tell us that he was bisexual, right? Which society already has issues with that. Let's be honest. They already have issues. They already have things going on with that. So, so I think that's really what it was he was trying to clarify that for us. But but I did expect, because I think I'm going to kind of explain it away, I guess. I felt the same way that Dana felt, that why didn't she, ask him, or why didn't she say anything about it? But then at the same time, I was like, well, she's been a servant and maybe she's been out in the world and maybe she's seen things. But then if she's been a servant, has she really been out in the world that much to be okay with somebody that she's dating being bisexual? Did she understand that? Does she know what that means? So yeah, I felt the same way, but I was trying to explain it away by the fact that she was a servant and maybe she had been,
and maybe it was more, it was less unusual than we give it credit for in our time, right?
Yes.
So maybe it was socially acceptable at the time that if you were
in some ways
married,
right?
That like
in
I don't,
some
I'm
ways,
not saying
right. Yeah,
it's
so I don't mean to cut you off, Marcy, but you're really saying a point that's resonating here and right now. In some ways, right now, we are more suppressive, more, kind of sexually suppressive than people were back in the day. At this point, right now, we are, even with the fact that we are representing LGBTQ folks, the society in a way is more repressive than it was back in the day, where they weren't saying anything. They were just doing. They just weren't saying anything. I think in some ways.
I mean, maybe in some ways, like in the fact that the men could go to brothels and all that and have mistresses and all that more openly, but the whole gay and lesbian, that was still a taboo. Now, we didn't have as many, their gender, up to a point, they didn't have as strict a gender rules about certain things, like hand holding for men and friendship between men and women, because they did show, but I'm not sure that was in that Regency era, more going toward Victorian age versus, where you have more male friendships. But, Oscar Wilde, he was known to be gay, but then he was also, near the end, he was persecuted in a way for that when it came out in the open with his love. I mean, I don't think it's, for the show it is, because the show is a whole lot open on a whole lot of stuff, but real world, no. But for the show, I think it is more open, because that's why we might potentially have something going on with, what was it, Violet and the cousin? Is it Violet? Not Violet.
Francesca and Michaela, which is what I was going to mention when we were talking about her
version of that era, with the Bridgerton version of the era, where we have black lords and ladies, and people of color who are lords and ladies, and then I can see that as being something that's not as restrictive as it would be now. I mean, I can see that in the show, but in that time, it was more, you might be doing it behind closed doors, but it would never be out in public. And I don't think, I mean, I think that's the same. So here, in that sense, under this administration, I don't know, but
that's what I was trying to say. I didn't say that, but that's what I was trying to say.
It's still better than it was at that time, but granted, it's not as good as it was like 3 or 4, years ago. So I think that's different in that sense. But yeah, I think him telling her that, it was, I think, like you said, it was more for us than anything else. Just so that we would know, because I don't really think no one would have come up, say, girl, you know what your husband does? I don't think no one's going to be doing that would have done that to her. But at least she knows faster than her stepmama knew that she was sitting in the house as his ward this whole time. Right. So, I mean, at least he at least was not holding or withholding information from her.
Right. We talked about a whole lot of stuff, and there's still a whole lot of stuff that we haven't talked about. But this is going on quite a while. But I did want to, because this has been going on quite a while, I did want to make sure that we get in our star ratings for this one. But before we do that, is there any one thing that we haven't talked about that you really did want to mention? I know we haven't talked a lot about Eloise, but I didn't want to necessarily bring her up because we're not fans.
No.
So
I mean,
but you
brought up
are okay.
I
All
brought my
right.
part up, but that was all I really had to say about
Oh,
her
you
because I
brought your
said it
part up.
already.
Well, her and
fell out with
Cressida.
her.
Yeah, her and Cressida was really all I had.
I
Yeah.
fell out with Eloise
We did.
with the whole her and Lady Whistledown and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff. You know, I was very disappointed in her, but she was one of my favorite, if not my favorite characters in the show. And I felt like this season I was happy because she was coming back to me. Like, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
would pay to just watch her facial expressions through stuff. She is hilarious to me. I love her. I don't know if it's like her level of sarcasm, just how she is, just resonates with me or whatever.
Mhm.
So no, like I thought it was okay to like her again. Am I wrong?
No,
I mean,
you're
when if
totally
you
right.
like her, you can like her. But I mean, I didn't really. She wasn't doing anything enough for me to care. I just think that her putting down her sister's stuff, even though that wasn't her thing, her constant like putting down her sister thing did not. It annoyed me versus anything else.
I can
And
see
it's like,
that.
but I mean,
But I
right now she
recognize that
hasn't
as
done
an
anything to
internal.
bring her back to me. Like, oh, bring her like to the point where I want to that I care. I mean, out of all the side plots in this whole season, she was probably the least of it for me, at least.
She's the person outside the older people I would want to hang out with because I don't know. So yes, I think her putting down her sister and all that stuff was annoying, but I also feel like, and I don't know, we'll see. I think there's some deep rooted issues and there's some reasons for that. You know, I don't think she really knows what she wants and she doesn't want to be pigeonholed into certain things, but I'm not sure she really knows what she wants or can make any sense out of it. So I think it's easier for her to poo-poo all other people's stuff, right? Like, why would you want that? Ugh. You know, not my thing or whatever. So like I could see that being annoying. But outside of that, like it was lighthearted to me and funny. Like, you know, one guy would come up to her to talk and she's already uncomfortable and she turned around and there's another 15. Like, what would you do? Like, I was just like
that part.
like, I mean, I guess maybe again, I resonate with some of like I wouldn't like that.
I mean, I can see if you're really put out there like a commodity, and then everywhere you turn around, there's people you got to impress or who are trying to impress you. I can see how that would disturb some people, especially people who don't want to be on display like that. I do think, though, that we didn't see enough of it. So I'm like you, Yvonne, hopefully. But when her sister said to her after John died, when Violet said to her, then I might as well not even try because they're just gonna die anyway.
They're gonna die.
And that isn't that what you said? And like I would just be like you because I think in that moment, and then to spin that around and have that conversation with Cressida, I do feel like they're trying to bring her to another place. I do think they're trying to grow her up past all of this and have her recognize some more hard truths on the way there. And so I think that this is like her arc, and I think it's part of it. And I'm hoping that we get to see a more evolved version because I can see myself, to like Dana's point, I can see myself allowing the things I liked about her at first to resonate if we can get past all the immature stuff she had in the middle. But just like Cressida, once we had a better understanding of why she was like that, once we saw her family life, all the rest of us were like, "Girl, find you somebody. You got to. Your people don't care." Like, and I think once we get to the other side, and she can really decide who she's going to be, like Dana said, not knowing what she wants, I think she's figured it out, and I think that's a lot of it. It's anger and jealousy and fear, right? And I think that's why she fell out with Penelope, because Penelope knew what she wanted and she went to do something about it. And I think when Penelope said to her, "All you did was talk and you're mad because I did it." I think those are when I think people who have the backbone to call her out are the people that are making her better. I just think that a lot of the time people just don't want to deal with her, so they just don't say anything. But in every one of the places where somebody has called her out on something, I can at least see that she's trying to be introspective about what they said. it's just a lot to call out because she's been allowed to behave this way for so long. But I think as the people around her mature, she's gonna be forced to do the same. And the Eloise that I saw with Cressida, the Eloise I saw trying to reinforce for Violet that her life didn't have to be like, that's the Eloise that we liked. And if we can get more of her back and less of the insecure, angry, snappish, waspish, childish one that showed up when stuff was happening all around her that she couldn't control, then I think that maybe I can try to extend some more grace to her to see where we're going. But if not for those pieces in this season, I would be just like you say. See, I'd be like, I don't care no way. But I see a little bit of a glimmer of who she used to be when we liked her, and I'm hoping I get more.
I want to say this before I forget it, to piggyback on what Marcy is saying about as other people around Eloise grows up, she begins to grow up. And I think we see a little bit of that here, especially considering that her former bestie Penelope is now married with a kid, right? And now she's even seeing her younger sister, she's seeing Hyacinth want to go out into the marriage part. So her saying in the beginning episodes that she says, I figured out what I want to be. I want to be a spinster, and then she's realizing that whole spinster thing is probably not going to work out. She's now kind of, okay, I got to really figure out exactly where I want to be again. And so that's why I think we're seeing glimmers of who we saw in season 1 and who we loved in season 1. I mean, to be honest, other than Penelope, I feel like if I were in this era or in this Bridgerton world in this era, that Eloise would probably be who I would be, right? I mean, she's the one that's like, I don't want to be put in a box. I want to be unconventional. I want to do what I want to do. I read a lot of books. I write some stuff too. I mean, that's me. I mean, what are you talking about?
Right.
But except for the immature part, which, you should have met me 20 years ago, then I really would have been Eloise. But I mean, she's I was kind of rooting for her. I feel like she's kind of like the contemporary voice in this 19th century world. She's kind of the contemporary person, right? Everybody else is actually living in this whatever, and she's kind of the contemporary person. She's the before my time kind of person. At least that's how I felt in season 1 and going through season 2. But then in season 3, she just became immature and like a child who hasn't figured it all out. But now, Dana, I agree. We're kind of seeing her come out, and maybe we want to like her again, but we haven't seen enough of her to come out of that yet. Like Marcy was saying, we saw the Cressida moment, and then we saw the moment where Hyacinth said, listen, you just all about yourself. And so basically, we saw her kind of come out of what she was in season 3. We're finally seeing her come out of that a little bit. And that was near the end of the season. So, yes, I'm still rooting for her. But no, I don't see her come out of it yet. And because there were some other things going on, particularly all the stuff that made me think about Queen Charlotte and that series / season, that she didn't get enough of my rooting for her, I guess. So, yeah, I'm with you on I want to see her win. And I really do feel like she can win with somebody that will, actually deal with all of that. I want to see that happen, right? Instead of the girls making the concession for the guys because the guys have the title and they can do this and they can do that. I want to see a guy make concessions for her, right? So I'm with you there. I just didn't see enough of it yet to be like, oh, Eloise, yeah, right. So that's kind of how I felt. So I guess we all talked about how we felt about Eloise. And then to the one other thing that I wanted to mention before we talk about star ratings is, with Francesca, I think too, with Francesca, we may see a Francesca Michaela thing happen. Now, again, none of us have read the books, including me. But I did see someone, I was, on social media, I saw somebody say that Michaela's character in the books, not their sexual orientation or anything, but that she particularly dresses in like menswear. She tries to be very male presenting. And they were pointing out something in season 3 that she had on that was like a military green. And they were like, this is not exactly what Michaela would wear in the book. Michaela really presents more, whatever. So it doesn't say anything about sexual orientation or anything. But I will say, with that in my mind, and then watching that last view of Francesca and Michaela, I kind of feel like, or that last, I guess that's the last episode. Marcy, you're right. A lot of stuff happened in that last episode. It was just
right
in there. It was too much. But I kind of feel like she was running away because she was running away from feelings for Francesca that maybe Francesca can't process because Francesca really loved John. And so I can't, that's just me speculating. I have, again, this doesn't necessarily go along with the books, but B, there are some things that are taken from the book. So I don't know where this is really going. So
quick question about that.
Yeah.
And so I may have missed this because, like I said, I haven't necessarily watched every episode. So from my take, their relationship, I don't 100% understand it because all I see is Francesca about to lose her mind looking at the girl like, oh my God, I want to be with her, I guess is how she's feeling.
Yeah.
Then the other lady is not really paying her just acting like a normal, whatever. Her cousin alludes to the fact, stop trying to hook her up with, men or whatever, but doesn't really go into any type of detail with that.
Right.
So I don't know.
I think there's a reason for that. Yes.
I don't know if I've missed something with Francesca and how she developed these feelings for her other than seeing her. Like, I don't know.
You haven't missed anything because there's not enough of that. There's not enough of that. I think what they're alluding to is something that because we haven't read it, we don't know. Okay. But I don't think that necessarily Francesca being the Bridgerton girl, I don't think she feels a certain way. I think Michaela feels a certain way.
Yeah, because I never got anything from Francesca other than that she was a connection to John. Exactly.
No, so this is funny. The whole time I'm thinking she does not want the cousin there before we actually see her in the house with him. Because every time she looked at the woman, it's like, oh my God, like I gotta go somewhere. I can't be anywhere near her. I thought she was like a teenage boy who didn't know how to handle the girl he had some crush on.
No, see, I read that totally different. That Francesca didn't want the cousin around because the cousin, remember, we were just talking about the fact that we didn't know all of this stuff about John because we didn't see John with his cousin Michaela, right? We didn't know all of this. And so what I'm thinking is that Francesca feels like Michaela is edging her out. Like Michaela is one of those people that she takes up the whole room when she comes in.
She does.
And John is like a different person around her. and Francesca is having to compete for attention.
Mm-hmm.
There is
That's what
definitely
I
that.
felt.
But
Yes,
y'all,
that's
I
what
have
I
felt
got.
this whole time she is so hot and bothered. She does not know what to do with
And
herself.
that could
So
be
I
Mm.
cannot
that
wait
could
to
be
see
it
how
too.
this
But
goes.
No, it was.
that's not how I read that.
Because I saw
most-
the craziness of Michaela, but I didn't see it until we were at the house. Like she hasn't liked Michaela at all from the beginning. When I
But it's
didn't even
because
know
she monopolizes all his time. Remember, she comes
Yes.
to get them, and
Yes.
it's 4:00 in the morning, and that man ain't been to bed yet, and then he got to
But
get
I
up at
did-
7 and go to Parliament.
I
So
saw
you,
that, but even before then, she doesn't want to be around. Before I even know who Michaela is, I don't even know who this chick is.
Mhm.
She cannot stand. Like I feel like it was at the end of episode, or in like
It's
maybe
at the very
three.
it's at the very beginning. It's at the very beginning when she comes back. And it's because this is why. It's because they're actually living in her house. So
No,
they
but I
haven't
thought
even
she met
set up
Michaela
that.
before. I swear, I thought at the
No,
end.
Michaela was in season 3. She was
Yes,
in
and
season
I
3
felt
at
like
the very
she
end.
saw Michaela and was like, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do with myself. This is a woman I gotta have."
I just saw Michaela as being remind her of her Bridgerton household, and like I'm married to get away from all that
exactly.
noise.
Oh my God,
She was
Yes.
there. It's that
Yes.
she was there. Period.
Y'all,
Not
every
that she
time
was
Francesca
there.
look at Michaela, I think that girl is like on fire.
Well, you could be right, but
You
I
could
mean,
be right about that because that's what we're saying. We think that's what the next relationship will be. That's what the real relationship will be with Francesca.
I really have been thinking Francesca doesn't know how
again.
to handle her feelings for another woman. I mean, I have felt that very strongly. So this is gonna be real interesting to me.
And
Because
that, folks, is why Enemies to Lovers books are just they're top sellers. That's why people love
that's gonna be
Enemies to Lovers.
interesting. So yeah, I just felt even when we found out she couldn't reach the pinnacle, in my mind I was like, it's because you're in love with your husband's cousin. Like this whole time, I feel like I've been on this whole other train of thought, y'all.
Well, I'm glad we talked about this because I didn't get that at all.
Oh Lord mercy.
yeah. I mean, I guess there's all kinds.
Oh well.
It's like I didn't get that at all. I totally got it from Michaela's side, but I didn't get it from Francesca's side until, I will say I did feel like when Michaela came to live with them and the whole drunken, when they got drunk that night or whatever, and she didn't come back to bed and John was like, have you been up all night? Kind of thing or whatever. What's going on? I did kind of feel like at that point she was seeing what Michaela was already seeing for her, that Francesca was starting to see it. But I did not feel that before. That is weird. Now I'm gonna go back and watch this.
I don't know what I thought I saw, or it was just I don't know. Like the fact that she just couldn't be near her. Like I know she's alive. I don't know, y'all. I think it's funny that I have turned this into this real steamy thing in my mind, and I'm the only person.
And you might be right, and we could be
I
wrong.
don't think so.
I just hadn't seen that yet, but I saw I saw it with Michaela when Francesca asked her to stay. I think that was the defining moment because I think that's when she realized she couldn't stay.
Yes,
because
that was the
and I think
defining
it's
moment for me
because
too.
what she asked her was, "You're the closest thing to John," and I think that's when she was like, "Oh, yeah, no, I don't want to be that." And so
Right, I want to be me.
Right,
I don't want to be a substitute for your husband.
And
so we'll
I
see.
have never thought Michaela showed any interest other than in Francesca whatsoever. So I haven't seen that.
I totally thought
It's gonna be interesting to find out where we go from here, because
well, y'all, I'm old and I've been out of the game for a minute. I guess I just don't recognize. I don't know.
You know what I say all the time? I don't know what chemistry looks like because people talk about chemistry, and I be like, "That's chemistry." Well, shoot, I don't know what chemistry looks like, so it could be me, Dana. It could be me.
I don't know the Marcy. It's 3 of y'all to 1. I don't think so. I think I'm sorry.
Maybe we're just dull by life and we don't see the love that you're seeing. I tell you, I'm a bit of a cynic. I will be honest. You know, I write romance novels, but I'm a bit of a cynic in the real life. So, but
to see where it really goes and which perspective was
exactly
what they intended.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that play out along with Eloise. It would be interesting to see Eloise, I think. And I would also like to see what Violet does next.
Yes.
That didn't come out right. But I would like to see where Violet goes with her freedom, I should say. And with all of that, because we've been talking for as long as we have, let's wrap this up with the star rating. Just to remind our gentle listeners out there, we took this from Goodreads, their rating, and it is a 5-star rating. 1 star, we didn't like it. 2 stars, it was okay. 3 stars, we liked it. 4 stars, we really liked it. And 5 stars, it was amazing. So, Stacy, I'm going to start with you. What did you think?
I guess it would be a 3. I liked it. It wasn't, I watched the first half of it and then I watched the second half of it later on. So it was enough that I watched the first half, but I'll be honest, it wasn't like I was waiting for the second one. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for the second half of this series to come out and to see it like I've done, like, well, I don't think they did in one, but it wasn't as on the countdown, like when is the next? It just kind of appeared one day. Oh, the second part of Bridgerton came up, and so I watched it, but
Right.
it wasn't the same kind of anticipation for it. So I would say just a solid 3. Like I watched the whole thing, but I can't say that I particularly would watch it again. Like I've watched Queen Charlotte since first time. I like, oh, ain't nothing else to watch. You know what? I can put on Queen Charlotte now. I can watch that. And then, I've even watched the first, season of Bridgerton, but I can say I watched this, but I don't see myself going back to watch it again unless we watch like the last episode or something like that to help prep me for the next one. That's the only way I see myself seeing the season again.
Okay. Marcy, what about you? What is your star rating for this?
I think I'm going to give it like a 3.75 because I watched it. If you're a fan of the Bridgerton franchise, I would recommend it. But I was disappointed that the storyline was less than original and that I could tell in the first episode what was going to happen in the last one. Like I knew we were going to find the wheel. I knew that everything was going to work out. I knew that, and I feel like that level of predictability in the main character's relationship really kind of disappointed me. But the outside relationships that we've talked about, the other characters really did keep me engaged and wanting to at least know as much as I could about their stories. And so that's why I give it a 3.75.
Okay. For everybody who's listening to this versus watching, Jen had to step out. So she left her star rating, which I'm going to read that now. She said 3.5 stars. The main love story was meh. I love the female friendships. Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury, Eloise and Hyacinth, Penelope and Francesca, Violet and her housekeeper, Sophie and Hazel. I also loved that brought in stories of the servants, seeing how they work and how they're impacted by choices that the upstairs folks were making. There were the cleaning scenes, but also the conflict with Penelope's mom and her housekeeper. 20 years in the house without a raise. That's Lady Featherington, y'all, that she's talking about. And yeah, we talked about that. And yeah, wow. And of course, that woman knows where all the bodies are buried. You probably need to give her a raise. Dana, what was your star rating and why?
So, as you recall from where I started, I wasn't very hopeful for this, and I had heard that it wasn't good, I guess, from some people. But believe it or not, my rating is a 4. I actually quite enjoyed this season. Again, I think like pretty much we've all said it wasn't because of the main storyline, but it was all the other storylines that the main storyline, don't get me wrong, wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. Anything, it was fine. But I think there was enough of the other things that I resonated with that made it so that I would give this a 4. And let me tell you, because one thing I look at when I look at a show and how I would rate it is how it makes me feel. If you could take me through the emotions, then I'm vested, right? I've obviously care enough about the show, or the characters are, you get nothing out of me. So I laughed, I cried, I got annoyed and angry. I went through all the things. Yeah. So to me, I think if you can pull that out of me, even if maybe a big part of it I didn't like, or maybe if I didn't like the ending or something like that, I can't deny the fact that you got emotions out of me, which being that you're just a TV show and you're not real is, to me, is a big thing. So I give it a 4. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Okay, great. And I'm going to try to be quick because we're about to lose Stacy. I'm going to give this one I'm going to say a 3.75 as well.
Wow.
I'm not exactly at 4 yet. And I think part of that is because we got some of the Queen Charlotte feel, but we didn't get enough for me. And I really wanted some more of that. However, I really love the fact that because the Sophie Benedict relationship is upstairs, downstairs, we get to see the servants and we get to see what they are going through and their drama and their issues, which to me are a lot less frivolous, maybe, than the ones with the titles. But again, that just could be me is seeing that. But I really love the fact that it opened it up to that and seeing that. I'm also, of course, loving the Violet and Marcus relationship. And I especially felt like my soul needed to see Lady Danbury and the Queen laughing their butts off at the end. Wasn't that just great? Can
you imagine being dancing though and hearing that?
Oh gosh, yes.
And I'm like, oh my God, am I doing something wrong? And
I'm surprised. It's so funny because they were laughing, and we know that was a moment, and they were supposed to show that moment. But wouldn't it have been fun to see the dance floor at that moment and see if everybody just goes, what? Just like you saying, that would have been fun to see. Like, what's gonna happen now? But yeah, I really love like all the other stuff happening, and I liked all of the other seeds that are being planted that we've talked about here on the podcast, which I'm like Stacy, I'm not necessarily looking for season 5 to come out, not waiting on pins and needles, but this is making me I feel a lot better at the end of this season than I did at the end of last season. At the end of last season, I was like, okay, we're going to do this 4 only to see where this thing ends, and we're done. And now that I've seen season 4, and now that I've seen the beginnings of things that I want to see more of, I'm actually like, okay, season 5, come on. Yeah, we're down for this. So that's why I feel 3.75. I just can't go up to 4 just yet. And I think part of it is because that main romance story just like, However, in the romance world, this is fodder. Everybody loves a good fairy tale retelling. So if this is kind of how it happened in the if this is how it happened in the book,
supposed to be original.
If this is how it happened in the book, we need a little bit more. But I would say in general, I'm not saying this particular version, which is basically the same thing. It's just Cinderella at Bridgerton. I mean, Cinderella at the Ton. This is not exactly a retelling. but everybody loves a good retelling. So if this kind of happened in the book, maybe in a different way, I guess people really liked it. But I agree with Marcy. It's like we already knew what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And the thing about romance is, you know it's going to be a happily ever after, but you want to be surprised how they get there. How they get there is the story.
Yep.
Right? But we already knew how they got there. We already know how they got there.
Yeah. I knew we were going to find the wheel. We always find the wheel.
And every plot point that we see in Cinderella, we do see that here pretty much. Mm-hmm. So say it again.
I said Disney should sue.
Yeah, exactly. So we see how they got there as well as seeing the HEA. So that's why not a 4, because that's supposed to be the draw, and the draw did not draw me. Everything else that you did that I wasn't expecting drew me, which is why we got 3.75. So, so that's it, ladies. I mean, there are some Queen Charlotte Easter eggs, but we about to lose Stacey, so I'm not going to go over those. I'll put those in show notes. And so everybody look at the show notes. Thank y'all for hanging out with me this long to talk about Bridgerton.
Yay.
Thank you for having me.
And good night.
Hi. Want to get show notes from this and future episodes in your inbox? Then subscribe to Nerdy Romantics newsletter at nerdyromanticspodcast.com/subscribe. Nerdy Romantics newsletter not only has show notes, but nerdy and romantic recs and sneak peeks and exclusives of my spicy, nerdy romances and love stories. I love talking sci-fi, superheroes, fantasy, and romance books, movies, and shows with my friends. So share this podcast with your nerdy romantic friends. Thanks for listening and for watching.